Okay, so let's go. We're going to start here and be here a little bit. And then here are two workshops I'm doing December 2nd and 8th. One we're painting a whole bunch of different shells, the other will be birds. For this right here, it's the Learn Shops in Berea to Make It Take It. If you're interested in giving workshops, Berea is doing a good job. They promote Kentucky artists a lot. It's Berea Tourism. Sometimes they will only do something for local artists, but they do their Learn Shops, and they cover, like I have people coming from Texas and all over to the Berea Learn Shops in July. So if you're interested in checking them out, see if you might have to submit work. If you're interested in giving a workshop, you might want to take a workshop. They have about, for this December one, they call it Make It, Take It, Give It. And it is, most people are going to be creating something that then they can give as a gift if they want to. So we're going to be working on multiple paintings, probably at about 8 by 10. So people can take them and put them in small frames to give. That's the premise for this. So, okay, so as we've been talking about portfolios, whether it's digital or physical, it's probably good to have both. But when you know, some galleries have very specific requirements for submitting your work. And so whether it's digital or physical, you want to follow what they want on their guidelines. But I also want you not to be intimidated, because if they like your work, they'll figure out a way to help you, you know, if they need something specific or more. So, you know, don't beat yourself up, but try to be, whenever you're working with your portfolios, try to be as, try to present who you are. We've talked a little bit, I've spent time talking about that because I think that's really important. You don't want to present someone that's not you. You don't want them to see this and say, oh, then this is where I'm going to put you. You know, like you're wanting to do the dancers. So if you submit a portfolio that has flowers in it, then they're going to think, well, that's what you want to do. And that's kind of what that's what I'm saying is, now if you do a variety of things, then show that variety. Unless you're targeting this one gallery for this one thing, all they want is horses, and so that's what you're going to give them, right? That doesn't mean that you can't do something else. It just means don't show them that if you don't want them to have it. You know, it's getting to know them a little bit. We talked about walking in cold calls, and I've had success doing some of that, because if we're traveling or something, it's like, well, this is an opportunity, I'm going to take it. They can say no, they don't want to see my work. A lot of the galleries in the Lexington and Louisville area are not real formal. You know, they're open. I think a lot of them are open to approach them with a phone call and set up a meeting. And you take samples of your work. If you have a brochure about yourself, if you have, you know, okay, you just came out in magazine articles written about you. If you have something of interest to show them, that's what you can take to that. I don't think I haven't found very many galleries that are so stiff and formal that any of you would have trouble. If you walk in with your portfolio, they're gonna want to listen to you, I think, especially if you've made a call, you've set it up, and you think it's a good match. I don't know of a lot of galleries that buy the artwork outright. When it comes to fine art, a lot of it is based on consignment. And so over the years, I've gone from just going to every little mom and pop and frame shop, trying to get my work out there, to being a little more selective and trying to match my work up with someone who wants to invest in it a little bit too. Does anyone have something they want to share about talking to a gallery person?
I guess it's more of a question, but I was thinking about how to, or do you have any advice for thinking about how to divvy up your time or your work when in some ways for me, it has made sense to hold on to my work rather than pursue representation in a commercial gallery, because then with all of my work, I'm able to put on a whole solo show in a space, and that's been good. But at what point should we be considering that it might be useful to be actually having the work, constantly at one of these galleries? How can we think about that?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on your place in life. If you have, and depending on what, some people, you'll get an order of, somebody orders a big store, Neiman Marcus or somebody will come and, order 1,000 pieces. That means you're making 1,000 pieces of whatever that is, right? So, I mean, that's one kind of getting your work out there, and then all of a sudden, you're like the dog that caught the horse. Dog that caught the horse on my brain. It is a balance. You want to be able to have a show, and maybe I guess I would think, try to set up a show someplace that you think is going to get people in. The people are going to see your work, and it could be that an opportunity will spring from that, because someone has seen your work. You have that body, you have that show, and then sell what you can out of that. Because, and then give yourself more time to create more work before you have another show. And if it's in the same spot, in the same general area, you probably want to wait a year or two anyway to be, like I probably wouldn't have a show at the same gallery 1 year after the other. I would want to try to find some different areas. I'm looking at a couple of galleries in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, but I don't know them. I've had a couple of conversations and they went really well, but it was for the Appalachian plants and animals. So, so what I'm hopeful is that I will have a show, and it will coincide with this new book that's coming out. That's what I'm working towards. But I mean,
a hard time selling stuff for commission and giving somebody 40, 50%.
That's something that's really, let's talk about that.
Profit. And if you're selling stuff, then it's just like, well, I'm going to take 100% versus just them sticking it on their wall to get that, 40 or 50%.
Well, that's something you need to realize the value. And early on, it's hard to think, well, wholesale price, retail price, how do you get that in your head? All of your expenses, and you should feel like you're making some money from your wholesale price. The retail is like, if you go to a show, I always felt like I had because my galleries would come to the shows. They would see what I'm charging for things. And they would expect that that's what they would get to be able to sell it for. So, you have to make sure your frames are covered. All of your overhead is covered, plus that you make something. You don't want to just be paying for your materials. So you need to make something in that wholesale. When you are showing at a show and everything else, you're doing the work that a gallery or somebody else would. So you're still earning that. You're earning the retail price, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So you don't want to price yourself out of the market, but you want to be fair to yourself. And that's always a difficult thing for us to, as artists. That's why I said you've got to value your work and appreciate. And then also, then when somebody does sell your work, usually the consignment galleries take 30, maybe 40%. If someone buys your work outright, they will expect 50% in this market. But there are other markets, even if your work is on consignment, they expect 50%. So you kind of need to know that going in. I always feel like I could wiggle with my frames. That if I have a repeat customer that is, every few years they just need another Pat Banks painting, yay. I'll say, and I can take the frame off and give them a reduction, right? And that would take it right off, and I would feel like that's okay because I'm dealing with the frame. Galleries don't care about that, right? I mean, they would understand. Okay, well, I gave them that price because I took the frame off, So I mean, it gives you some wiggle room. You want to take care of your patrons, and
do galleries only show originals?
no, there are different galleries. There are different kinds of galleries. Some just show originals. Some would be a limited edition. Now, your photography would be considered an original. So, yeah, I mean, it's the different galleries in Berea have kind of different criteria. Now, the Artisan Center does take my prints and the originals. So I'm happy about that. And they buy them. So
if we were going to do a exhibit or show here, would you bring originals and prints, or would you paint prints? And then how do you go about the price differential between your original and prints?
well, I have this size. My paper comes 22 by 30, and so I usually cut it in half and quarter it for this size. Sometimes I have a long vertical piece that I'll so I can have different shapes. But this size, as an original, goes between $300 to $500 unframed. And then you add a frame to it, and that would have to double. I mean, Michael's, I can get a frame, a 16 by 20. I have to recut all the mats for the originals. And I buy the frames at Michael's. I buy one, get one free. So I always load up on those so I can get them. And I get the ones with the mats, but I always have to recut the mats. I always have to put new backing and redo all of those. So say the frame is $39 or $45, something like that. And then if you get one free, okay, good. That means that when I sell this to the Artisan Center, I'm only going to charge $45 or $55 because I actually got one of the frames free. So so I don't have to just totally price it so the frame gets tripled in price. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of a strange thing with framing, because if I have something for $50, then the gallery buys it for $100, then when they sell it, the person is paying $200 for it, and that's the frame.
My dad got framed those frames sometimes for me. Fortunately,
Does he have a frame shop?
now he's a carpenter.
Okay.
He has a shop downtown here in his backyard. So like with those frames, if I sell a painting that has one of these frames on it, I just give them like $75 and I would pay for the price, but I don't really raise the price about that.
I had sticker shock because I've always done my own framing, and I always bought the Nielsen metal, the big metal, gold and silver frames because one, they look attractive, but they kind of disappear on the wall. People don't say, oh, the cherry doesn't match my oak, you know, so, and they're easy to take on and off. So that's what I showed a lot of my work in was with those metal frames, all like archival mat boards and everything. Well, I decided a couple years ago, I'm not going to cut glass anymore. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, I only used them for 50 years. There was the frame company off of Newtown Pike. Went out of my brain right now. Anyway, I used to get all of my frames wholesale, my mat board, everything wholesale. Lexington Framing Supply. But they went out of business. And so there's not another wholesale framing place. You have to do everything by mail. And I've been having a hard time getting my mat boards because they're getting crunched on the corners. So I thought I have this show coming up at the gallery in Richmond, and I want to frame my horse. And I'll show you guys the horse. We were talking about my horse. I'll get your critique on this. So I go into Michael's, 70% off. That sounds like, okay, I'll be able to resell it because the artisan center wants the horse. And I'm not cutting glass. I thought, okay, this I'm going to go in. So I went in there. I picked out my mat board. I tried to describe how to float the original onto the mat board and cut around it. And the person didn't know what I was talking about. That gave me a little bit of a ding, 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 ding. And then I got a simple wooden frame that I thought would hold up to being moved around. Because that's the problem when you're showing the work is your frames can get dinged up really bad. So you've got to pad them and they've got to be sturdy enough. And a large watercolor with glass is heavy. So whatever you use has to be sturdy. So it's not going to twist and break the glass and everything. So, but I got a simple frame, but sturdy, the mat boards, the glass, and she figures it up and she goes, it'd be $600. And I said, what is it, 70% off? No, it would have been, wait a minute. That was, and this is what I sell all the time. And I'm just, this just happened. I'm like, I can't, if you guys have an answer for that, I don't understand that. So, I'm going to recycle one of my other frames because I'll just take a painting out and put it in there for this because it's an order. But, yes, framing is important, and you probably should go around and look and just see what they're selling the wood by foot or something, or get a catalog and estimate what a fairly comparable frame might be. Maybe give people a little bit of a discount because you know it's your dad's doing it for you, but at least have an idea of how much your it's kind of the value, and then add that to your retail price.
Yeah, and I don't know. You're right. We should pretend that we didn't get it on sale.
No, and no, not that. But you need to know what the value is. You need to know.
Yeah.
That. I mean, I told you about my friend. Did I just mention? I don't know if I told this story. I think I did mention my friend who is a fabulous painter, and her husband did her framing for her. So it only cost $25. He bought the wood. And I'm having to pay $150 just for my materials. That was all wholesale. It wasn't $600, it was $150, so it's still a good deal. But
The problem with that is she's now not valuing her husband's time.
Yeah, she's not bad. That's what I mean by like you just I guess like need to build that in. She needs to like hey give him a little.
Right. I mean, she's not valuing his time, and that should absolutely be factored into.
you've got.
Although you know, if they are, you know, a married couple and share a dog going in the same pot, maybe he's just calling it, putting in labor into it as well.
Except wouldn't it be nice if that pot was a little bigger because he put the time.
Because he put the time in and put the money, it's like, hey, I'm gonna get paid an extra $100 for what I just did here. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's a balance, you know,
You're
it's
right.
like, it is,
I'll
but
mention something, this is something I know about, she was talking about the metal frames. Metal framing, especially if you're sort of in semi-standardish sizes and even not as much. You can buy metal framing by they call it by stems. So you can buy, like if you've got a 16 by 20, you buy two 16s and you buy two 20s. They just come packaged vertically together, and then you get a little package of hardware and basically build a frame. Those things are, they're nice and sturdy. They look classy. You know, for me, there's basically two colors of frames, and that's iffy. You know, it's black and silver has got to be a special case. But that's something that you can order online, get that in, and then source a local glass, you know, to get that cut. I mean, there are ways, you know, the wood frames can get, I mean, it's crazy how far that stuff can go, even just simple black wooden frames.
I feel really bad about throwing away so much glass, you all. I'm so sorry, because I'll buy frames right off the rack and then switch out the glass for the little canvas and.
Okay, get out.
Yeah.
You're done.
That's it's so fun. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was that expensive.
I mean, the small frames, I mean, like I said, I feel like I get a great deal, $49.
Yeah.
Buy one, get one. And I do the mat and everything. I charge a little extra for the mat because I have to cut it, have to buy it. But that's how I got my frames from Lexington Framing. Was I had my sizes, but they were not all 16 by 20, not all the standard, but you could get them.
You could get them in
And-
1 inch increments.
Yes.
Typically is what those stems come packaged.
And I was
Packages of two.
And I was into cutting my own glass and everything. I'm not glass cutting anymore, but I can get glass cut. So I mean, that's that. But I just, it was about a couple of weeks ago, and I just thought, you know, I've got all this stuff going on. I can save 70%. Surely I can just go in and get this frame. I had no idea. I mean, I thought it was going to be $200.
Yeah, like that sense.
Yeah. Anyway,
How
so
much was it?
about 600,
How much?
590 or something.
That's with the discount.
How much was it?
32 by 40.
Oh, oh.
I know, because that's what that's what.
I mean, that's a big frame, but still.
Well, and that's my normal size when I'm showing. A lot of them are that size. So, yeah,
Your dad doing the business.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that, dude, I wish I could convince him. He's good to know.
I mean,
He's so
for
weird.
carpenters, frames are
He's
like simple.
time.
Like
He
they're
like
just,
just does jobs that he wants to do. Like people call him and be like, "Can you do this?" And he's like, "Nah," or "Yeah, I'll do it." Then he'll take 2 weeks to do it. And I'm just like, "Dad, framing, like this is so expensive. There's nobody like I don't know where to find people." I mean, yeah, we do have a framer in town, but it's just like I can't. I'm such a cheapskate that I just can't do it.
Well, and I was surprised. Now, a couple of years ago, I mean, during the pandemic, we weren't doing shows. Even our little gallery, we were doing everything online. And so, getting ready for this last show at the library, I was get you know, all of these I could manage to do myself. And I thought, well, I've got this big one. I'll just anyway, yeah. So, but I do think you need to at least go to that frame shop and pick out a couple of wooden samples, find out how much it is a foot, just so you know.
and I'll follow up back on this a little bit with
Yes.
a question related to Chris, or maybe that's on Chris's question. So given your place in your life and your art career, if you're given the opportunity to put a few pieces in a few more prestigious galleries, or to hold that work back and place it all in a single show, what's your preference? What would you rather do?
See, I would say, okay, how can I do both? Or how can I, maybe I would have that show and then give that work to the gallery if they wanted it or something. I think I guess I was kind of doing a little bit of that when I had all 50 of these. And it turned out that the first show I had was at the Lexington Public Library. I went there because I thought it was going to be tying into the children's book. And it seemed perfect. Now, the thing is, I sold about 6 paintings there. And then the next week, I took my carload to the director of the Artisan Center sent me an order for 23 from that show, and he went to both of them. And now 23 of them are going to be at the Artisan Center, but he's going to have all 50 prints also available. So, but I think your specific thing is very intriguing, and it's like, how exciting would that be? And
I mean, I guess technically I could have an original in a show and in a gallery.
yes,
somewhere,
yeah,
which I guess
because they're
is-
probably not
I
going to be
hadn't
in the
thought
same
about that,
time.
but that's a luxury. Right, that's a luxury that I guess you all don't have.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So I would want to opportunity if a prestigious gallery wanted to buy or show 3 or 4 of my pieces, yeah, I'd be thrilled. If I had a show coming up first, then I was going to need all of those pieces because you're going to have to. I would have to frame them and have them ready. So usually when I get ready for a show, it's a pretty expensive thing just for me to have the honor of having my work in there. So, but then if I knew that as soon as this show's down, that they want that these other 2 galleries, which would probably be in different towns, then I would try to work it out that way. If they had a special thing they were working on and they wanted it, then timing wise, would I have time to get something else ready for my show that I wanted to do? I guess I would just try to figure out how to do both, and then figure out if the timing could be. Yeah.
I had a situation come up recently, I'm wondering what the proper course of action would be if this happens, because this is one of the things that's kind of keeping me from applying to more gallery shows as well, because, other than the trying to remember where everything is. But I had some work at the hospital, and I had interest in buying several of the pieces, but they were promised to go to a show like the next week, and I didn't want to make a bad impression on this particular gallery, so I said that they were going to be in this show, and I couldn't sell them, and then like immediately I'm kicking myself, like, why didn't I just sell the paintings at the time? And now the paintings are still not sold, but they might have been sold, and I don't know if I did the right thing there, or like, and
You might have asked for their permission to include the work in this show that you had promised it.
and then the gallery would change
So
it
that
to not
when
for
it's in,
sale.
right, is that the right thing to do?
It is allowed, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about.
And I feel like it also maybe gives their purchase a little more cachet.
I mean, wasn't it? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
a big deal. I'm not, worried about never selling the paintings, but,
Well, that was that early in my career. That was always a problem for me because if I entered into a show, old photographs, I have to have the photographs of the painting. I would still have to have the painting. And so there were years where it was, this is the show I want to be working on, and I would try to think a year in advance. I know that show's coming up. I want to submit work for it. But it was always hard to actually have the work, the photograph, and then submit, get accepted, because back then the judges would have to go through the slides all manually. And I mean, everything was just, you would submit work 1 month, and it might be 6 weeks before you found out if it was accepted. It was a real struggle for me.
Yeah.
So I think I would love to have a sale. And I think in that situation, was the gallery putting it together for a special show, or?
Yeah, well, the wasn't a special show. I mean, it was a show, but it was just my first interaction with this gallery.
Would they have taken 3 other pieces?
Would they have taken the 3 other pieces? I don't know, maybe. They might have.
You know, maybe you could have
That's
called
what
and
I'm
said,
asking for.
I think what I would have asked, if the hospital wanted to buy it, the gallery, were they gonna buy it or show it?
Yeah, they were just gonna show it, and
And-
they didn't sell there, I'm their home now, the paintings are home
Yeah.
now, but I thought that the market would be pretty decent because of where it was, like, well, I mean, it was in Paris, whatever, and I'm really, and they're not a huge, not a huge gallery or anything, but I just didn't wanna be like, oh, you can't have them now, and they said that everything had to be for sale that was put in there, so I just.
Well, I mean, I think let's talk through this a minute, because I think if you had 3 other pieces that were comparable, if they were all horses, right? And you only showed the gallery this one.
Yeah.
Or 2. I mean, I guess
Just see if they were amenable to.
just say, do you mind, these are sold, I can sell these, can I bring these 3 other horses in? They'll be for sale. Usually they would say yes, unless there was one specific that they wanted for a certain thing. You know, if they used to run a postcard to get everybody there, they might want to.
Fair, yeah, one of them was.
Okay, so that, but still, I mean, I think they would be happy for you that if you sold it too, but I think you've got to talk to them about that. And that, I'm glad you hesitated on that,
I've been really skewed for like a month and a half, 2 months now.
because, yeah, I mean, because the thing is, a sales opportunity is important for artists. It just is. So, yes. Both have you. You first. Yeah, you go first.
So you keep talking about about it, what you do, but how do you do the price?
Well,
It's like, I look at myself, I'm like, I like it. I'm pretty talk about that. I should probably sell more, but myself too much. That was,
well, and again, you need to think about your market, what you're trying to sell. Early on, I mean, one thing you say is, how much do you think you should get on it? $20 an hour, $40 an hour? What do you think you should get? And kind of have that be I need to at least get $20 or $40 an hour, whatever you think. And then, or 50 but then it's like, you have your materials, you have your, if you've had to make a trip to go, if you had models you have to pay, and it's like all of these other factors are here, and they're kind of, you can't get your arms around it exactly, but you have real expenses. And so, you want to at least have your time, your materials, and then maybe this other effort that you've done. You want to make sure your framing or presentation is covered. You know, if you have to have special stands or just whatever you have to present your work, try to have all of that in the wholesale price. And then if you're lucky enough to sell it retail, that's awesome, because you have earned it just in your marketing and all the other things that you have to do. Now, there are different kinds of work. There's work for hire. There's since I've been all over the map, I know all of that. If you sell an image, if you sell one of your images, somebody buys one of your pieces, they've bought your piece, but they haven't bought the right to reproduce it or to change it in any way. So, whenever you do something for a project, like for a book or for a collection of some kind, if somebody buys your piece, you can still have the rights to that image and use it yourself, unless you give that away, unless they purchase that. And that's another purchase. That's royalties. That's other things that you would be getting for an image that's ongoing. And you just need to be aware of that. Somebody will say, well, I paid you that, so I can use it however I want to. Well, no. Now, like a newspaper, a photographer, and maybe you can correct me on this, but when our local Richmond paper would do a photograph of something, that photographer then could not sell copies of that photograph to me. You know, because I would ask, I said, well, those belong to the newspaper. So that photographer is not able to sell because they're doing this on the job for the newspaper. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so then, but if a photographer, or, you know,
Same photographer can come to her house off the clock with his equipment, make her portrait, then charge her for it. When he's using their equipment on their clock, he can't charge for it. I could fill this gallery with scenic stuff that I shot on KET's time. I can't sell any of it. I actually had a show once as the KET photographer, and I had people, was in an attorney's office, and he kept coming up to me all night because people wanted to buy this stuff.
See, that's something they should have sold me. Y'all could have done the split and half of it go to Kate.
Well, that's what he said. He's like, look, I'm a lawyer. We can figure this out. And I'm like, it was just something I didn't want to engage in a conversation with KT. And I knew it wouldn't go well. First of all, I knew it wouldn't go well. So, but, things that I do, like all this work belongs to me. Even though I started doing it while I was at KT, I didn't do it on KT staff. So that's how that delineates out.
and somebody can commission you to do a cover of a graphic novel. Okay, that doesn't mean they bought the original. You still have that. They're using it for the cover, and you're going to get royalties off of that. Unless you say, yes, for $150, you can use it and have it. It's okay. But you have to give that away. They can't just assume that because they bought this and said, I'm going to use this on the cover of my book. And they walk away and like, wait a minute, that's not what you bought. You bought the original maybe, but you don't have the rights to it to take it to these other venues.
I phrase it as personal use, not commercial use.
That's a good way to put it, yes.
Because that's what I sell images to theater company members all the time of their portrayal in whatever production. And they have to click and agree with this is personal use, not commercial use. They can use it on their personal websites to get more work for themselves, whatever, that's all great. But they can't sell it. Right, they can't put it on a poster and sell it.
And that's hard for people to get their head around sometimes. Because they think, well, I bought it, so.
Oh, there's so many people that steal your art.
Well, it's the Wild West. It's the Wild West. When the internet came around, it's the Wild West.
It has changed
That's
things.
why when you post things online that are hard, and contacting you water coming in straight across the top of it, with like on the character and everything, because they can't take it from got your information right on it. How are we gonna edit it out?
So they can do that, take it and print it out in China somewhere. It's very interesting.
Well,
And
we,
more important, I tell them like that they're allowed, that they are allowed to make prints if they like of the memorial portraits for other family members. I do that, and I should do that. Because I mean, like, these are so emotional. It's hard. I mean, they pay well, like, but they're so emotional, and usually it's something that the whole family could love. And I guess I could sell them individual.
Well, but I feel like you gotta feel good about that as an artist. And I feel like if you
Yeah.
don't feel good about that, charging the rest of the family.
Yeah,
So,
no,
I
that
don't-
sounds.
I think your instincts are probably.
I would, I mean, I would give everything away for free if I would, like, really, like, let me tell
you know what I discovered? You can't give somebody something free if they don't want it.
It's true, it's true.
Early on when doing the outdoor fairs and stuff, it's like, oh, what do I price this? How do I didn't sell anything today. How come? Okay, maybe I should mark something down or something. No. The price didn't matter. People just wanted the image or they didn't,
Yeah.
and I know it would be like I would be comparing, well, somebody sold a ton of wooden spoons and I haven't sold any paintings. Why? Well, one, the wooden spoons are $20 or $30 and my paintings were, a couple hundred. Well, okay. But yeah, a few times I've thought, early on, it was like, maybe I just gotta charge, So I did some, $5 paintings. No, don't, they didn't sell any faster than no, because it's the image, it's what people want. And they want to pay a fair, they want to pay a fair price. You don't want to price yourself out, but, yeah, you can cut the price in half, but it doesn't mean somebody's going to buy it. They just didn't, it doesn't work that way.
It either speaks to them or doesn't.
What?
It either speaks to them or it doesn't.
That's right. They either want it or they don't. And so, you want to be as fair as you can. I feel, sometimes I feel like I'm underpriced, but on the other hand, I feel like, well, we're in Kentucky. This is kind of where the price might be. My big ones go for $1,200 to $1,600 unframed. And so, but that also has the wholesale in there, and it has then if it gets framed, and then.
You can also put a size on the top too. You can tell them that they could reproduce a 4x6 or a 5x7, but anything larger than that to you. Purchase it.
But then how do you know if they actually do that?
Yeah, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, you never know. You never know whether it's anything.
Okay, so the yes.
Oh, I just had a question back.
Oh, right. Yes.
We're actually wanted to say if you were trying to figure out where to price your work, at least for me, when I was starting out, something that was helpful was when exhibiting, hearing people's feedback. So like just getting your work out there and then hearing, I think like I very clearly remember somebody telling me, you need a 0 behind each of those numbers. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing this way wrong. And so, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I know through dollar experience, that's how I do it, that's how I found it's easiest for me to do it, because some paintings don't take as long as others, and something I just cannot, I work in short increments, I can't keep track of time, so I do, it's just easy, basic math. Square inches, I hate doing small ones, because it's pointless, and for the big ones, make up for it, I don't know, that's how I ended up, adding on whatever. If there was anything special, like the frame.
My question.
Yeah, you're
was, people donating work to like esteemed collection. When should we think about that? I mean, in some ways it seems wild in this discussion of obviously we're trying to make a living. When should we donate it? What value does that have on our CV or whatever that we might be?
Well, that's interesting. Because I do donate some work. Again, I think it's a personal connection. Like if there's a foundation or a company or somebody that's doing something that you really appreciate, and they're doing a fundraiser for, whoever. A lot of times, if it's a large piece, they will use that piece on their promotion material, so you kind of get a little bit of recognition for it. But I mean, when you think about it, a lot of the museums that have these great art collections, those have been donated. You have wealthy people who collected art, and then when they die, their heirs get a huge tax write-off when they donate all of this fabulous art. And that's how a lot of the museums built their collections.
So would we get a tax write-off?
No. You
Well-
don't get any tax write-off. The only thing you can write off is the materials.
The
That's
materials.
why I don't donate anything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Value of the
stupid.
material only.
Well,
You
actually,
can't set a value.
if there's a retail price on it, I think you can do the.
I
retail
don't, I
price.
think it have to have been sold at that price. From what I understand, you couldn't do it because I ran into that one time and I thought, oh, well, that's really something,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna write off $15 and give that to the, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um,
But a lot of times these organizations will either feature your work, especially if it's something that's a little bit big. It's a draw for people to be to come and donate and there are organizations I like to support. So yes.
So we talked a little bit about like the bigger things, like being in galleries and donating a lot and stuff. Well, you talked about you started doing like vendor fairs. I think we have a lot of vendor fairs around town, and we're doing Shop Small Saturday in November. So like any tips for that? Or like we're just coming in and putting tables and like selling art at a table, people walking around. So, like,
It's going to be in here.
yeah, we're gonna put up little booths.
This is going to be a
Yeah,
great
see what
spot.
happens. Yeah, so even like as far as that, like, we'll have like prints and originals and that kind of thing, but pricing for people who's kind of walking around town all day, like, how would you?
Okay, how many members do you have?
I believe that it's gonna be, completely more like 10.
Yeah,
but
about
it's
10.
easier, even though there are more.
We've got 20 members.
29
What if you
members.
print off a postcard and gave everybody 10 or 15 invitations or something, and get all of your members to give out to 10 of them? Just try to get 10 people to come in here specifically to support you guys here.
We're also doing a children's art show in December, and we made the drop-off date during that.
That was
get more
pretty
people in there.
brilliant. That was pretty brilliant. Well, now I also like the connections that you guys have made with journalism. Early on, I've been a member of the Kentucky Guild of Artists and Craftsmen. For about 50 years or more. And so I've seen them go through ebbs and flows, and right now they're going through an ebb. But it's always, how do you get people to show up? How do you get the word out? And my brain's flipping from one thing to the other here. Okay, I'm going to tell you about the gallery instead of the guild. The guild thing just went out of my brain. But for the gallery, that's what we've been doing, is getting our, we're doing our postcards. We do a mailing, but we're getting as many of the members or artists as we can. We give them 10 or 15 of those postcards, and so that we usually at our receptions, we might have 100 or 150 people at a reception. Now, we don't get people the rest of the time because it's inside of a bank, and so I think people just don't think of going into somebody else's bank, but they'll come in for the receptions, and that's when we have our sales. What was I going to tell you about the building? Oh, thank you. Okay, so what I did is I partnered with the journalism professor at EKU, and for about 3 years, just before each fair, I would go in and make a presentation to the class, invite them to the Guild Fair, and the students would come to the fair and find an artist, and they would do a profile of that artist. And so I just got this, the office got changed or something, and they gave me copies of all of these for about 3 years. And like I said, we did it about 30 years ago, so some of the artists are no longer with us. And so, but getting the journalism students to, and originally they were printed in the newspaper. So, and so it was getting the students, they got to profile the artist got to have something about them. It was just a really nice thing. And you guys have been tapping into that, which I think is really fascinating. But and then we have for our art show, the November show, I'm going to be a featured artist, and I haven't had anything that I've shown in the gallery for about 3 years because of getting ready for this book. And so now I'm ready to show. And so it is, so here is the little postcard of the little birds. And, we're gonna have, the annual Drury High School show, and we'll have our all-member show, and then me, the featured artist, and then a sculpture, show that's new from the Garden Club. They're having some, 4th grade through 8th grade do, sculptures from, recycled material. So it's gonna be kind of a cute thing. I hope we do that annually. But anyway, we're gonna have the art class, one of the art classes from EKU. The students are gonna come and do the jurying for this, the judging for the show. And they did it last year. And it really engaged these young people into, and they interacted with the high school students. It turned out to be really good to involve the two classes. So I don't know if you guys have a class you'd want to reach out to have them participate in something like that, but that was good.
Knew somebody that taught at university.
Yeah, I thought we would do.
Yeah.
I
Like
love
teaching.
collaborations like that. I think that's the best thing. What do you think?
My husband was the EKU, who's the director of the Center for Appalachian Studies, and I knew everybody, but he's been retired 10 years now, and it's like there's all kinds of new faces, and it's like it's amazing how things shift around.
You don't know
But again, I think this is kind of a visual thing, but I keep wanting to go back to reminding you that you're a real person, and you have all of these things on your time, and they're all important. And somehow, you still have to be able to create your art. You still have to be able to communicate what you're doing to people, what you're doing, not to people, but communicate to people what you're doing, and realize that you touch a lot of people. Your story is going to be important. And sometimes when you're telling your story, you give other people permission to be creative too. And I think you can't undervalue that, because it's really, really, I think, important that we encourage people to feel and to taste. A lot of people, sometimes I think everybody gets in their little box and they think they're not creative. They think they aren't trained, or they don't. They get themselves removed from art, and I think we've got to be careful, because I think art can really connect people, and it can connect them to each other, connect them to what's going on in the world. It can help people be connected to nature, and so I just want to keep coming back to that, to take care of you, because you're taking care of a lot of people. Okay, let's talk about presenting your work some more, because we talked about portfolios. We've talked about the formal portfolio, giving the gallery just what they want, but also presenting your work. I'm interested because I mean, the technology thing is it's so incredible when it works, and then it can also be invasive. What do you think you need? You want people to see your work. What do you think? How do you think you want to get your work out for people to see? Galleries?
Yeah. I tried different things over the. I've had my work on different things on the internet before. I did get into a show in where was that, New Hampshire or something? Because I actually, but that came from something over
I'll call
or,
Okay.
Oklahoma, right?
and that was, that was part of it.
Be included in it, but then there was.
Well, yeah, see, they actually didn't hang it. All they did was put it on the internet.
Mhm.
See, it was the New England Watercolor Society, Rhode Island Watercolor Society, what it was.
Mhm.
But they were accepting anything.
Was it during the pandemic?
Pardon?
Was it during the pandemic?
No.
Because a lot of shows went online for a while. People weren't doing the, up in front, yeah.
But is
If
that
people-
a way? If he were to respond to additional, online call for this show, that show, whereas most of them are, I think, like this Rhode Island Watercolor Society was strictly online. Is it possible for some of those to lead to gallery representations, you think, or?
Well, I
Is
think
that-
it's possible, but I think it's also connections. I mean, I think it's the, there might be some gallery people might come to some of those shows and then see something that they like and that would create a connection.
Right.
To do those kind of shows, especially for watercolor, I think they're expensive because the shipping is out of the world. And you usually have to buy insurance for those before they'll accept them. So I do a little bit of the out-of-state stuff, but I try to carry it. I try to keep it so that I can drive it and pick it up if I have to.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I know that Kristen will never toot her own horn, but she listens, as she works in her gallery every day. She listens to podcasts, and she listens to, lectures online, and she, attends, workshops that are free online, that she wants to learn while she is working her hands. And hearing the stab of the needle, so she can block that out, she listens to as much information and finds out, so many numerous art galleries around the country. She puts her work out for every 10 applications that she submits, and she gives back on one.
Yeah.
But she continues to put it out there, because until you put it out there, you're not gonna get that. And for you to sit and think that you're gonna wait for the ideal, opportunity to reinvent itself, years will go by and you won't present.
Oh, yeah,
yourself.
you've got to
And so
grab
she
it.
is totally proactive, day to day, because when the pandemic did hit, she was just really starting that maybe in 2015. So she did a few years into it, a few years, some illness setbacks or whatever. But then so when the pandemic hit, it really put it on the freeze, because there weren't the shows, there weren't the festivals, there weren't the gallery opportunities. And so she really focused herself on her work during that time to really figure out exactly the route that she wanted to go. Grew as an artist tremendously. And then when it seems like when the pandemic sort of began to taper out, she hit the ground running. And then what has transpired in the last year and a half has been phenomenal, where her work has escalated in price. People have matched what they wanted instantly, where she's thought, if they want to sell at these prices, they should do more. Because that was a thing for her, like you said, your pricing. If they're selling what she thought was a huge amount of money, even after she took in what was for cost of materials and her time, if it was selling that quickly, it was loved by people that immensely. And so I think that her prices changed, the whole concept of what she could provide changed. She stopped doing so many of the smaller ones as really huge pieces. She grew as an artist of more paths that she wanted to take and statements she wanted to make. And I don't know, it's just to sit back and just sort of a passive observer and a supporter, like you're saying, her family to support people as well. It's been amazing to watch and to actually see avenues unfold for her, and then the confidence giving to even, proceed more. Is that kind of fair?
She's gonna be my agent now.
Chauffeur to all these artistic galleries and museums that take her work and that Google over it. So, anyhow, I felt like say something because, when you are starting out, you are more hesitant, but as the ball, it sort of gets the momentum going, you grow and then you realize the opportunities, but I guess the thing is don't be the backseat driver. Be proactive for yourself to get yourself out in everything that you think might like you, because you'll start to realize your niche and find your.
But I think something that we learned in doing that was like trying to figure out when you're just going from the blurb online, what does that place look like in person? Because sometimes you go to outdoor shows or to gallery spaces where it doesn't really seem like they're invested in getting people to that show. And then it just feels like now you've wasted the energy, you spun your wheels in doing this, you've missed another opportunity that's come up. It's so difficult to just kind of like try to, when we do live in a rural area and we can't just be everywhere to see these places at once, like how can we, with all the opportunities that are available to us, how can we assess whether they're worth spending our efforts?
Yeah, I already worked vanity gallery. I worked for
Yeah, and
vanity gallery.
it's like,
And that's a gallery that'll take your money and they won't do anything to selling work and they usually charge a lot more. And so I started looking for galleries that very low price and we don't have a because they're probably more legit, I would say. I don't know.
Are you talking about, electronic galleries?
No,
galleries?
no, I'm talking about real galleries, but some just seem kind of shady, you know? She's like, how do you find the one?
I think Chris is asking, how do you sort of sort out? By looking online, they may have an image online, but when you get to the actual place, it's a little less than what.
They've got a great website.
I mean, going and seeing, I mean, that would be, sometimes it's word of mouth. Now, if you find a great gallery and you tell everybody here, this is a good gallery, then, everybody's gonna be pretty confident. But yeah, I've been in a couple galleries and I've been in 2 galleries that have burnt down.
Oh,
That's shady.
with your work in it?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Now, the thing is, luckily, insurance covered it, but, that was kind of like. So, yeah, you just don't always.
Did you go see to make sure that the place burned down?
Still your art.
Yeah, I'd want to see the ashes smoldering.
Well, when you've been doing this for 100 years, I've had a lot of, what's really interesting is, when I was reading what you guys submitted, and then listening to you, I've been doing a lot of these for so long, and I never say, oh, that's never going to work, because I think, maybe it'll work this time, because sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's you have a great idea and it just is the wrong time fit. So if you think you have a great idea for marketing yourself or having a show or something, and then it doesn't quite work out this time, maybe in 10 years it'll be a different. I'm just saying, sometimes take some of your ideas and recycle them every once in a while. But it sounds like you're doing the right thing. I mean, you're out there. I was trying to be modest when I said at least spend a few minutes every day thinking about a place to show your work or something you can do to move yourself forward where you want to be. And like I said, I tend to have 2 or 3 projects going. One might be the children's books. One might be getting ready for a gallery show, doing things that I love. Let me show you. I talked about my horse. Let me jump out of here. And I'll take criticism because, like I said, I don't do a lot of horses.
Older than some horses.
Oh,
Yeah, I want to see the horse.
I'm trying to. Where is it?
It said animals, horses, right there.
Oh, down there.
This might be my photographs. Oh, this is the photograph.
Yay.
Isn't that beautiful?
So beautiful.
I just love that. And now the painting I did are totally different colors, but I want to do one in acrylic and another in watercolor with, more, but this was the first painting I got to do, my studio flooded, this year, and I got it rebuilt probably about May or June.
Get back, if you're trying to get back out.
No, I was gonna, oh. But I was telling them about the horses.
If you labeled it.
Would that be nice? But see, I don't know which folder I put it in because it, well, obviously wasn't in with horses.
My paintings.
Well, I have my paint, this is the bicycle I wanted to show you guys.
So fun.
Is that adorable?
That is adorable. You should go walk down by our river. We love our river too. River people do.
Yeah, get in it, my God.
I'm sorry.
Just for her.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Oh, wow, beautiful.
But see, I really focused a lot on this, maybe more than I needed to. But when I was looking at the anatomy book, those muscles were so.
They are. So I see what you did here, and I like, so you've taken the tree there and you brought it, if that's what I was doing. Brought up flowers.
So when you do stuff like this, do you do the big first?
Well, it's kind of, I do a lot of washes everywhere. And then I start, there was a lot of negative space in working with this one. So once you kind of get all of the underpaintings done and then so the horse was probably painted early on, and I started working on the background and everything, pulling out the detail. And I just, this was me getting back into my studio, and I just couldn't let it go. I just had to keep working. And then this is one of the paintings from the children's book. Eats and possum.
Delicious. Sounds absolutely delicious. I don't know if I'm possible. I'll eat the meats.
Okay, so when Chris, when you're working on your, are you going online and just reaching out to different galleries and seeing what they're?
I've done a lot of it, all at this point of those like word type things. Like I get like stuff done commercially now because I haven't approached that way, and I haven't done much. I have not gone into a spot as it's gone. I would like to be represented here because I don't. That feels very scary for me. It's much easier behind the computer screen.
Yeah.
But I've done I've done lots of open calls as well as like cold emails to places that say, oh, we're continuously taking proposals. Go ahead and submit yours, or to places that have a contact, and then I'll reach out and say, are you accepting proposals?
Yeah.
And I consider those. I kind of keep a list of like everybody I've applied to, and know that I'm not going to hear back from a lot of those. Just cold emails are just never going to stop.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I'll have contacted somebody about something else, and then it becomes something, and that's really fun.
Well, and sometimes, after you've contacted them the second time, if you have something new to show them, I mean, that's building a relationship too. You know, it's like, making your connections and supporting each other. I can't tell you enough of how, I think probably early on in my career, I was probably more competitive, probably out of any insecurity, because it's like, you know, you've got to sell your work. How do you do that? And is someone is a competition or something? But I just really enjoyed seeing other people's work and enjoyed being around other artists, and that just that competitiveness kind of, I don't have a lot of that
When you
anymore.
get rid of that, it feels so good.
Exactly, it's like a burden that just, because when you can support each other,
Get rid of it.
it is.
Better.
And I, like I said, that was very early on, and part of my, you know, when we first moved here, that kind of thing, you don't know anybody. But as I just have had so many great experiences, and a lot of those experiences have been with other artists who've been very supportive, and when we were starting our gallery in Richmond, it was 2000, and a bank president wanted to give us a place to show our work. And part of our arts council was I love them. I love everybody there, but they were in an old church, and there was no place really for visual artists to show their work. And so every time they would have a little event, we would all go come and decorate with our tables. And every once in a while, some friends from EKU would come and show their work too. But the event, you know, it's like, it's just not really professional to sit there and have your little table out. So how do we get someplace that we can have a really nice presentation for everybody? And so this bank president said, we've got a whole room, and it's about this size, maybe a little bit wide. No, it's about this size. And then we're right on Main Street, and then there's another hall outside of the room that we're in that has the window to the main. And so we have almost double the space then, just using the space around the bank. You don't have to have it staffed. The bank president's assistant is right there, and so she monitors whatever's going on. And so we've been really lucky because we had no overhead. But on the other hand, it means we haven't applied for a lot of grants. We haven't needed them. But we went to the Arts Council to make a presentation. We wanted them to manage the gallery, because they're getting the grants, and we thought this would be perfect. And one of the questions one of the board members asked me, they said, well, we have a frame shop in town. Won't they feel like we're trying to take their business if you have a gallery in Richmond? And this is in Madison County, where we is right next door with, you know, dozens of galleries. And I said, well, and they also said, and will people in Berea be upset if you open a gallery in Richmond? And I was just like, I said, if you're going to go antiquing, do you go someplace where there's just one place, or do you go someplace where there's a bunch of places?
Exactly.
And I said, we think having the gallery space, it means we're going to be able to include EKU faculty members and students, because they'll have a professional venue to show their work. We'll be able to work with community people. And it was like, they said, well, that's a great idea. Good luck. Because they couldn't imagine taking on that space at the time. And so we did. And so we're still in business. We've had since 2000, and we've had a really good board, and they've been really supportive of each other and our community artists. And as a matter of fact, we have this, I'm going to admit this to you, we haven't been jurying our work in, because typically what we do is we'll have a featured artist or 2 or 3 artists that will be the featured artists, and they will have between 10 and 20 pieces of work that would be the main part of that show for that period. Because we do 5 different shows a year. And so then we invite our members or other artists, our community artists, to submit up to 3 pieces of work. And we've had really good turnout, and we've never had to reject anyone. And we're able to hang work that may not have made part of the jury process, but we've been able to hang things in a creative way, and also then mentor people about, okay, this has to be ready to hang, so this is what you need to do so we can hang it. And I was looking at how you hang those, half of those times. It's pretty creative. Anyway, we had one special show that we were putting in a new president's house. And at the time, it's been about 15 years ago, that our gallery, twice a year, we would change out about 40 paintings from the president's house and keep it rotated, because at the time, the university used the president's house to entertain. And so it's a nice venue. Well, we had a brand new president come in, and she was Jewish. And we had this one fabulous artist, but he brought in 4, a painting of Jesus and then 4 disciples. And we thought we could not hang those in that situation because of the religious conflicts we had. We showed his work in our other gallery, but it was like, okay, we didn't know what message that was going to send that new president. So sometimes there's iffy things, but we've been really fortunate, and I think we've helped a lot of community people be part of the art community that might not otherwise have thought they could. And we have one woman who is so excited every time we have a new show, and she has a caretaker. She calls me usually 5 days before the show to make sure it's really going to happen, because she has to make arrangements to get to the gallery and fill out her form. And it's just about all she can do to do that. And she sells her work for about $5 to $6 a piece. And I feel like that's something wonderful that we're able to do for her, because she wouldn't, it's a situation where she would not have made the jury process if we had one set up. But we've been really fortunate in that.
And it's not like those pig shows, like when we had a pig show, we were selling hot dogs. It's crazy. It was so fun, but they're all so, like, so what painting, and I'm just, I'm an artist. So it's just like,
You touched on something. I think until kids are like in 2nd grade, they all feel like they're artists. Have you noticed that? And then they kind of self-sort, and I think other people help self-sort. Okay, you're an artist, you're an artist, and all of a sudden that makes you not an artist. When I've gone in and taught in the schools, that's kind of what we run into is, well, they're the artists in our class. They're the ones that are the artists. And it's like trying to get them to just loosen up and just experiment with the paint is a real joy to see when that happens and it works. Okay, so what are other ways to market your work and say your gallery's work? What are you guys thinking of for this?
We have questions about social media and price, what we thought within the pricing thing. We done,
Not really social
we
media.
haven't touched on social media at all.
Okay.
That was
Well,
your
let's talk about social media, because that is one of the ways to market yourselves and this space. So, oh, my battery's running low. I think we're not going to need anything else here, right? We're too. You guys have looked at this long enough. We can go outside.
Yeah, I like social media because I get all the nice stuff. You know.
I get concerned about social media, just, I don't do much of it.
I don't know.
It is, it's, like, my New York contact are like, you need to use Instagram, who's on Facebook, and I'm like, well, everybody around me is on Facebook, but I'm my page, so.
And see, I have not
I
done
have such a
Instagram.
following on Facebook that it's like, trying to get one on Instagram is dumb.
Instagram is hard.
Anyway, not that it's all.
I feel like Instagram wasn't hard like 4 years ago. It was really easy to get a good following, and then they have changed their algorithm so much that now it's really hard to step into it.
Still, so like, I make videos sometimes with videos, I don't really
Reels
know.
are really hard, like especially if you don't like talking in front of a lot of people and like talking about yourself in the process. Like me, I would much rather put a picture out than put something. cheesy,
There's
like,
even a series of pictures.
Right?
Tumblr, it used to be where that.
I know, I never noticed what Tumblr, but Instagram used to be so easy. Like when I first started my art account, I think it was right before I got ready with my son, so there was a lot of effort in the beginning of it, and then I just stepped away from it and tried to get back in after I had him, and it completely changed within that year of it, and it was just completely different. And Facebook, you tend to reach a little bit more people now on Facebook, rather than fighting with other people for Instagram.
I think Facebook is a little bit, the thing I've noticed is kids are starting to use Facebook where they weren't a couple of years ago. My daughter has a Facebook account,
My daughter just got a Facebook.
and I'm seeing her engage with people on Facebook. She's 17, so I'm seeing her engage more. So I think, and Jack just, he's looking at finding someone to help us with our social media as a guild, as a workstation, as an organization. So her thing is she wants everything to be instigated off of Instagram. Like it starts with Instagram and then it goes out.
That's what I'm
So-
saying, hearing actually too,
Yeah.
use my Instagram post and share it to Facebook.
That's what I
Videos,
used to do.
share them to Instagram, share it to TikTok.
That's
share
just a
it
job
to-
in itself. though.
It's
To do
so
that
much
over
time.
as well, it's really work. And
I mean,
you
and
have to have
videos
videos off as well.
Like, there's an extra 2 hours after I've done the painting of going through the footage of the bits that I've been putting them together, and that's a whole nother thing.
You may as well make a YouTube channel with that one.
Yeah, no.
You should,
I just
if you're creating video content, you should have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You need that, so then you can also use that as a central repository for video content and share that out as even like embeds. So you can go and get an embed code, so it can come up and automatically plays, like it doesn't. There's
You don't have to
1,000 things you can use YouTube for.
With YouTube as well, especially the one side of it that I've noticed. From, because of crap.
Lucky videos are good now, I think.
If you find an artist that isn't doing something good, like for instance, I would culture housing and waffles. I would not have found Chloe Rose art if it were not for the job.
Yeah.
Because they never flash. Believe her. Is that like, it feels like art Instagram only attracts other artists and art people there, and it's not really that I'm trying to share my work. I love art. That's not at all what I'm saying, but that's like, right, it's like if I'm actually spending a lot of time, it would be great to figure out how to reach the other side. And I just don't know how to do that. And like, art,
And likes don't need sales. That means nothing.
right.
And follow certain things.
Yeah.
Follows don't need sales. It's all very confusing.
Yeah, it's very hard in the algorithms.
What's your strategy?
What's your strategy?
Well, sometimes Facebook likes me and sometimes it doesn't. Right now, I've got the problem of I've had 3 different accounts or 4. And I've got an old email that is in the way, and right now I've got to go back into my Facebook and get into the weeds of it to try to find where this old email is coming from, because it's got me kind of offline.
You're locked out.
I'm locked out. And so I have to spend the time to go through all of that. And so to me, it's incredible how many people you can reach. I've got several thousand people that are on my Facebook, but and when I put something out there, you get a lot of likes, you get a lot of comments, and you know, I think it does kind of let people keep in touch with you, you know, what you're doing.
So clarify for me, just,
Which
is it your personal Facebook, or do you have like a marketplace Facebook?
I had two, but I really use my personal one. I really don't use that, and that might be one of the problems, because it was from an old email. And this old email pops up even on my Apple account sometimes. It's like, I've got to find, it's like it's ghosting through my system. And it's a pain in the neck when it doesn't want to recognize me.
I think sometimes when you have the Facebook that actually does the business, it gets into an algorithm that Facebook wants you to pay money to get the algorithm out there. Because I had one that was the business account, and they were trying to force me to pay, you know, just a couple dollars a day, but still a couple dollars a day.
Yeah.
And so I stopped using that, and I started using just a personal one. But if anything with money is ever mentioned, it seems like it pops the algorithm.
It should have done 100%. I get not nearly as much engagement on my business page as I do my personal page, and then James, our mayor, told me that that's what they're doing. The algorithm business pages is automatically going to put it at the bottom of the list unless you want to pay more. So I get more sales on my personal page, and it knows if I post like the same post on both, it'll like do both of them down. So I don't post prices when I do it, because I can't, and so people have to ask me, but which probably doesn't help, but it's fine, you know, it works out fine. But prices, and then if I share the same picture, like at the same time, it'll report it. So usually what I do is I will share the new thing on my personal page that I want to get out, and then later on, I'll share it on my business page separate. So like at a different time, and it can push that down all at once, but it's there on my business page at that point, and I've gotten the engagement I wanted from it the first time. And then I just make everything that is art related on my personal page public, and anything else is private. There's like, you know, friends only, like my kids and stuff, so strangers, but I can just direct people to my Facebook page and be like, yeah, you can see all my art there. I have a website, but it's nuts. That's what I do.
I made the decision
But
to
it's
not have a business account, because the thing that I've learned, particularly in for creatives, is people are going to engage with you as much as they're going to engage with your art or whatever you're making or producing. They want to know that you're a good person, that you're a cool person, that you're somebody that you would want to go have a beer with or hang out with. So you all know my daughter,
Yeah.
she's all over the place anyway, so I don't need to hide her from anybody.
Yeah.
So she goes to Miss Kentucky, so whatever. So I keep my page public, my entire page is public at all times, because I want clients to be able to share that and their friends and family to be able to engage with it. But I feel like I have a voice on there. I sort of, you know, it's a little kitschy, it's a little, you know, I try to be funny a lot, but that voice stays consistent for me. But then I feel like those people are getting to know me, and I do get client work, because, you know, someone has seen, you know, a series of whatever dancers or whatever that I've done, you know, and I'll get private messages, you know, for that. But I feel like the personal voice is the key. I mean, correct me if you feel like I'm off base here, but I just feel like that's that's where you've got to put the work in, I feel like, to give yourself a voice. Like,
Oh, I know. the little
it was very uncomfortable for me at first. And then, in the last few years, this, all thinking of myself as an artist thing. But it'll sort of sort itself out. Like, you'll find your voice, just sort of keep doing it. And I think you find your voice over time.
That's what I try to spend our morning trying to say in so many words, is that you have to develop who you are and be able to tell your story, and then and be your authentic self, because people do connect with you, they do care, and you do touch them. And I think,
And the opposite, they'll hate you too. So, because they don't like it, right? Some people think my images are too dark and too moody, and not right. And I'm fine.
You're
yeah,
not supposed to be bright. You're supposed to be dark.
Right. But, sorry.
no, but the social media is the same as these others. Your personality is going to come through. People do care. Your art represents something to them. You're speaking to them on a level that's not verbal. And sometimes I think people think they have a relationship with you because they think they know you so well. And they kind of don't know you exactly. But I was listening intently about the Instagram and all those, because I'm struggling with the Facebook, and I'll do that really well for a while, and then all of a sudden the old email comes up, and so then I spend a couple of months just ignoring it, because I don't have time to sit down and go through the weeds on it. So I have to set myself time, but right now I've been too busy to do that. But I do, yes,
Oh, well, I didn't mean to cut you off, just the next question.
okay.
Oh, okay. Something that, I think that we hear a lot is, the importance of, in light of this algorithm that continues to support us, building an email marketing list. And some people act like that's just something that's going to be relatively easy to do, and you're supposed to integrate it across all of these platforms. And I just don't see, like, who comes up to a show at a gallery and puts down their email? Like, there really are not that many people who do it. Because we all get way too much spam. And so I really don't know how to navigate that. And if anybody has any ideas how to gather that email list, I would love it.
Like, unless you can find like local people who just found the email and put them on the real list, they didn't ask, that's what I'd be doing.
I have 53,000 unread email messages.
I don't think Sean is the person to figure this out.
That's why it was telling me. I posted it on Facebook because I don't check my email.
I check my phone.
Yeah, I don't need to post it on it.
Well, I'll tell you how a lot of, when I was at KUT, they would set up at St. James Art Fair and set up a booth at St. James Art Fair. So what they would do, and it was a gigantic pain in the ass, the whole thing. But we would all sort of take shifts in this booth, sort of display our wares of what we had to offer the arts community, KUT wise. But what they would do is they would invest. I mean, this takes some money to invest in this, but they would buy, and the strangest thing, shopping bags, and they would have them designed. There was a new shopping bag every year. You got the good shopping bag for free. All you had to do was come to the booth and sign up for the booth. And you get to take the shopping bag home. And so they built huge email lists, over the years. And I feel like, it wouldn't have to be something as big as a shopping bag, but,
A fan.
yeah, right. Show up at a really hot festival with a bunch of cool fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, other than that, I just don't know. I feel like it's kind of just a shot in the dark, which is like anything else, just a shot in the dark, you know, so. I don't, I'm not sure how else to make that connection.
Are you talking about getting the emails from like here when people come in and?
Not necessarily, I think you actually do a fairly decent job of getting people to sign up for the gallery email, but that's not the same as like our private
Right.
email list, so
Right.
potential, collectors.
How beneficial are those email lists, because you see them all the time, but I don't know how many people actually open them. And so there's a big push to have them created, but I don't know the return. I've never seen the statistic on the return on that.
I think the open rate for like industry is something so much higher than elsewhere, like I wanna say 40%. That doesn't necessarily mean those are fired, but, the people who put their email list down, that's such a small group who comes to a gallery and want to go put their email somewhere, and they're like, let us know what kind of thing. And so that makes me think maybe the people who would be on a list would be enthusiastic than actually creating those emails and putting them on this one thing.
Well, that's the city's been doing, I don't know, I hate ChatGPT, but like, people have been using that crap to write everything.
GPT, it's that generative AI.
Generative AI and writing stuff, put the prompt in and it's. And it's usually half wrong. I mean, but you have like a starting point, you can edit it, if you need to. I haven't done it much, but that's what they're doing. And I can always tell when they've used the program to come up with their little ad.
The big thing with ChatGPT particularly is the prompt.
Yeah.
It has to be very detailed.
So it's even then, it's a whole other thing to learn.
Well, it is, and okay, so, as a group, you've obviously got a lot of different skills. Are you, are you engaging with each other as kind of like a resource or?
Yeah,
and
I think we are. I don't know. We try, I think, to help each other.
I mean, we're a, diverse group of volunteers that are all really dang busy, so,
See,
we
that's
get
how
together, we get together as much as we can, so, but
Yeah,
it's-
This is a very special occasion today.
Yeah, it's, we
I've
usually,
missed Chris about art things before,
I'm just saying, because I think as a resource, you guys are gonna be good for each other.
They're not thriving as much as they should be, and I've been here like a month, and yes, they do help them each other a lot.
But clearly we can email them anytime.
Yes, I feel like it's not a competition, like everybody loves, everybody wants to buy, I mean, everybody does want to buy art. It's like people like art, and I don't feel like we're competing with each other. There's so many different styles and types, and I don't think, like, even someone else doing portraits, it doesn't, like, I don't feel like it's even a competition, because they're probably different, they probably do it, a different way, it might be easier or faster, and they can charge a cheaper price, or it might be better than that, and it just doesn't feel like a competition. If somebody's gonna want my work, they want it for it.
We all play different positions, but on the same.
Well, I was on your website and I checked out as much as I could, and your guest housing for the artist, that is so fabulous. How did that happen?
look, we have a founder who apparently doesn't sleep much, so he sits at night when Jack Ruder sits in the night.
We
just
have
comes up.
an insane amount of support from Jack.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this was his brainstorm, to sort of the journalism, Ford Station 306 point, whatever it is, 36, that's sort of a separate but connected entity to this, so he created the art side of it. And basically just has a farm, his family farm that, has houses on it.
And this space is here because when those young photojournalists were out on the farm, there wasn't very good internet signal. And they figured finding space in town, we would get that. And sure enough, this space, which I did not see the before picture, was a wreck. And literally, I mean, I did on occasion see pickup trucks out in front of it with all kinds of stuff that was going out, and it became transformed into this gallery. And then he reached out to a kernel group of people that I don't even know exactly how he found us, scraping us, you know, out of the woodwork. Yeah. How did he find you? How did he find
No, I
you?
found Here, I found this today.
Okay.
Because I came in to see the intern work,
Okay.
you know, like, I just.
So the,
Right.
do you know, I don't know if you know how much about workstation journalism part of this. So they,
Just a little bit.
the students come, there are typically three students, two photographers, one writer. They come and they live here for 3 months. They live in a
They
house.
get
out
an
on the farm.
internship, so they get a stipend.
They get a stipend. And, you know, the photographers, I don't get at least $3,500 for the summer. But they don't have to pay for housing, you know. So they document Harrison County for 3 months.
It's
Self-
it's so lovely, and they're here, and we all like, take care of them.
So then in August, I basically, with a little bit of help from others, mounted a show of that work. Jack and I edited a show. And so now this space hosts the results of their work, the fruit of their labor for the summer at the end of the summer.
That's fabulous.
And then the two photographers, each of, I asked one of them, she took a picture, she went out to a place I suggested, the pony farm, and she took a photo there, and I was like, oh, can I paint this? She's like, yes, please, so I painted it, and so I had that job painting, and the owner of the farm bought it, and I made a print for the photographer, and I'm actually right now painting one of Lucas's, I'm in the middle of, halfway done with one of Lucas's, and I'm gonna have to send him a print, but that was fun.
So was this 306 show that just was up, was that the second one that's been in this space, or is that the third?
I think it was their-
Before that,
They were.
before there was this, they showed at the Roz Theater. And it was like a one-night thing. And they were on stage so they could talk, but their work was projected on the screen, and whoever was interested came.
And then
that
this summer, when they remodeled the train station down there at Boyd Station, and there's part of his workspace, it's big, we painted the walls, they trimmed it out.
Wow.
Now there's a space where if any of us want to go do something real huge, we don't have space in our own studios, we can use that.
I'm working on some huge things right now, and I had this idea, and my husband, well, I bought 2 ladders, 2 6-foot ladders, 5.5 6-foot ladders, because I'm working on a 4x8 sheet of plywood that size. And so, I bought 2 ladders, and he's put angle irons on them so I can set it on there. Because I couldn't figure out how to. They have to be.
You gotta get off the ground.
I have to get it off the ground, and so how do I do that? So I'm kind of pleased. It's working out pretty
Now
well.
you have
using
a
the-
big easel.
I do.
That you can also use ladders.
with the angle irons hanging
Yeah.
out. But I think one of the things I've noticed, you've got a really nice age thing going on here, because what? I'm seeing some babies here, and with the journalism you're bringing in the young people, and I think that's really a nice connection. Do any of the interns ever come back? Are they from here, or how do they find out
Some
about
of
it?
them are living.
Yeah, some of them moved here and just stayed.
Well, I can't imagine why they wouldn't.
Oh, God.
Can I ask, if we're on getting ready for the fall, meeting in December, what kinds of things would you like us to work on before we see you?
Well, we were talking about doing a Zoom meeting. Is everybody comfortable doing a Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, and then,
Unless you just want to come
Maybe we can take pictures of our sit-ups. Yeah, it's, I mean.
Well, yeah, I would love to see that, and are you, I guess I'm, a lot of what we need to be talking about are some, are, you know, the marketing and the presentation. Do we feel like we need to talk some more about that, or?
Like, I'm just, if I ever do like a show, if I would ever, I don't know, if my art is that kind of art to do that kind of show. But
I'm looking what we're sitting amongst.
I know this one.
Oh,
There's some fabulous art here, I'm just not gonna say that. I just, I'm more,
like the confidence.
childlike. Can I just show you real quick? I just brought one thing just to kind of see, how would you present this in a type of a show? Because most of my stuff is small. And so, of course, what makes a better presentation is something bigger. So how do you present small stuff? Most of my work is like 5x7. So this is original. But see, how do you present on a wall 5x7? So I have blown them up, you know, as a poster kind of size, which looks smaller. But like for a show, do you do originals or do you do prints?
Well, we were talking about that. I mean, if this group is happy with prints, I mean, I think you could blow some up and make them bigger. Maybe the thing would be to do 1 or 2 big ones and then a grouping of smaller ones.
And then how do you mount? I mean, like, I have done some, this is like an original, I was just practicing on this to see if I put it on, you know, a wood panel.
Uh-huh.
Do you think wood panels are okay to use?
I think this is really nice, but what you'd want to do is buy hooks and so that you can hang them.
Do the wire across the.
Yeah, and you might need to invest in a nice drill so that you can just. A lot of hooks you can do them on this side. You just have to make sure when you're stacking them up, you're doing back to back, front to
I
front.
mean, you're almost ready to have it there. Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could,
but-
You just literally
with-
the hardware.
with this system, we could actually hang those as is.
Yeah.
But
There are pictures down
Why'd
here
you do
that are
those
small.
3 little pictures back there? Are those a command?
Very carefully.
those are command strips. That's if we can't figure it out any other way, that's.
And like the scale was a little different, even with the journalism show, they had like a big thing blown up and then 2 or 3 smaller things next to it.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it was different sizes, but I think that makes sense.
So I think we need to get a nursery art market.
So that's why I just don't know where my market, you know, my market is.
Mark Bradford show here, they were 4x4s, and people came from Lexington to look at that, like, dude, the size doesn't run out, there's plenty of galleries you put on a small work.
Yes.
show, so you might even look at those kinds of calls.
I mean, I would just
But then
say,
he framed them, right? So it made him a little bit
You
bigger
did
than
run
that.
them, but
Yeah.
they don't always, I like, you know, that's
I
not.
mean,
Those are
I
adorable.
will say, as someone who hangs these
Right,
shows a
that's
lot,
right.
I think if you're gonna have smaller pieces, you're gonna have to have a lot more of them.
Right.
If you want it to be sort of, to feel full. You know, like,
20 little ones.
I think there were people with the journalism show that I hung, because, you know, conventions kind of go, I don't.
I have
I
like
sort of do
600
this-
paintings.
I
at
sort of
home.
do
I haven't
this-
sold anything.
I sort of do this, you know, just by feel.
Right.
And so I thought the 3, where I stacked 3 11x17s or 13x19 frames, I thought that felt really nice. There were others that felt like they were too much, but
See, does that, I mean, to me, this is more appealing than that back there. And that's
to
what.
me, it's not. I
mean,
like,
No, I like it.
I just feel like, also, if you're hanging, so as someone who would want to sort of hang a show, I like the fact, and if I had this to do over, this sort of came out of an arrangement for the reading.
Mhm.
So stuff was spaced out really different, and I didn't want to just move it all.
Right.
What I would probably do if I were hanging the show without sort of having to move it, is that smaller stuff would get mixed in with the
Okay.
bigger stuff.
Okay.
So, so with the photojournalism show, we had 24 by 36s that were there was 8 of those that were sort of key big images. Then we had smaller images
In
between
between
those.
Okay, here's the library show. What's her name?
Shonda,
Shonda. Here's the library show, and see how he stacked mine? Because I had so many. It's like, there were so many for the space.
Okay.
But see, I had a couple large ones and then the small ones.
Oh,
they
yeah,
had
they,
here.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because there were so many. And we were just hanging them. He took those down to the other, so they weren't staying on the floor. But he had just gotten it together. But I liked the way he had a large piece and then a group of 9 because
The
that's
lawn
how they.
style, that was called where they left the chairs, so they had it all floor to ceiling, completely covering the wall.
Well,
Which I
How many
like-
wires, the more, like, how many can you hang up? If you hung up one picture per wire.
way more than we could fit in this gallery. So I don't know how many there are.
So,
but,
like-
this used as many wires as we, I think, had used because most of these required 2. But there's a lot more. I mean,
Is this something that you guys have, this plastic piece that you,
Yeah, he slams up on the ladder and sticks a little piece.
so do you think it's important to have all of your frames kind of the same, like all black frames that shows the best? Or,
I'm not necessarily personally, but I think that's an artist thing. So
Yeah, like Diane, her phrase, that's just pretty, but she, like, the gold leaf frames and the filigree and the classic. That's what we're- Is it,
well, did you see the Faulkner show at the Healy Whitney? He did a lot of that. He would go to the different stores, like Salvation Army or whatever, and he would pick up his frames for $1 a piece. And then he would paint the frames to match them, just to continue the artwork throughout.
I've sold work before where people said, I don't want the phone.
Mhm.
Take it off. Can I just buy it that way? Or sometimes I take off $25 or something, but they don't want the frame. I find a lot of people are very particular about it.
But that's what I have found. So
Very
using-
particular.
using the metal frames like I did, they were invisible to people, even though they were sturdy. Because I would have a few framed in wood and somebody every time, and these are outdoor fairs, carrying the wooden frames, the metal was just so much better for showing. But they would say, oh, I have cherry furniture, this is an oak frame, I can't use that. And so what I have found is when I framed all of these, I did a mixture of the black and some gray and some white because the different artwork kind of fit in different kind of value shades or something. But are we losing you?
I've got.
It was great to meet you.
That was nice.
Great to meet you.
see Kendall.
Yeah.
For your friends,
Yes.
do you ship those or, do you, well, I guess.
These are for me because I was, when I can control it, I mean, these are just, normally I would shrink wrap them with foam core.
Okay.
And that's how they're displayed normally. Foam core. And shrink wrap them, tighten them up and do that whole thing, yeah. But talking about the framing and stuff, I think if you want, and that's where when you hang them, if you have different frames, sometimes you would group the frames, all the black frames might be kind of together. Just visually, they might hang together better. But a variety of frames, I don't think would be a problem. Not in, a lot of shows, a lot of the shows that, the national shows that I've been in, they're more concerned about, plexiglass. They want all the big stuff in plexiglass. So,
Are they in plexiglass?
Geez.
in that glass.
Interesting.
I know. So I've got a couple pieces of plexi in my studio.
You
and I
swap
just
the
swap
glass
it
wherever
out.
you need to.
Yeah,
Do you ever show stuff without glass?
I haven't, and that there is a technique of, there are people that use varnishes on watercolor paper. And I would be tempted I would be tempted to varnish the watercolor paper because I think I would love it to have the watercolor actually look kind of wet. Yeah, but I haven't done it.
Try it.
I know.
It's so scary to try something new. Like,
scale.
make a
Simple
small piece.
A small piece, see how it goes.
Next time you do something, you're just like, oh.
It
I
doesn't
don't
have to
know
be
about
anything
this.
super fancy, you can just.
See what it looks like.
I mean, it's just so much easier to deal with. Like Chris's show is probably one of the best looking shows that we've had in this place because there's no glass on any of the art.
Yeah, there's no.
The color is so
I love
rich.
The
And
map, like these map prints on mine because I like you to be able to see it, you know,
Yeah.
from anywhere in the room. And some people are like, well, it makes you look harder when you have to get right in front of it. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want them to be like, what is that?
well, and I want people to be able to see the detail. Like that's but I've been doing, and I have some framed at home like this right now. I will take those prints, have them dry mounted on foam core and put them in a frame without glass.
Mm,
Cause it's resin coated paper, like the paper that I showed you today.
Yeah.
So it's fairly punch proof. It's not gonna smudge and leave fingerprints on it.
wow.
So I'm a little brave when it comes to that, so I don't know if that's, I don't know. but I love the way it looks. When you hang it on the wall, it looks really great.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
With
and it's cheaper.
Yeah, it is cheaper.
with watercolor, a lot of people want conservation glass. Yeah. Depending on if they're gonna hang it in the
Yeah,
sun,
'cause
or
it
rain,
might be.
because it'll fade,
Which is.
it'll absolutely fade. Do photography, do photographs fade too?
Not as much as they used to. They were.
Goodbye. Okay, so we
Okay.
decided what we're gonna do on the fall or what we're gonna do. What's gonna be the most beneficial thing for you?
So it feels like, I think something that we had hoped to, develop over the course of the workshops was, kind of like a plan of how to proceed, and I don't know if maybe it would be a good thing for us to kind of self-assess, go away after having this conversation and thinking for 5 hours about what we do, come back next time with like what we plan to do next, and
Plan
then-
by yourselves or as a group?
I'm thinking kind of stand by ourselves, and then when we come back together, we're discussing it as a group and, getting, your feedback on that. This is
plan-
depending on the fly.
Is it gonna be planning for the gallery or planning for your individual, what's next step?
Planning for our individual fronts.
Okay, okay.
Which could be both.
Which
We
could be
could
both.
also do, we could go on and start and kind of make ourselves a list. And then also like what, by the time we meet in December, what we've actually been able to attack on that list too, might be good speaking points. But it's very a good challenge, because I mean, for a lot of us work better under pressure.
But you know, that is a little, it's like if you guys have to do something, reach out or do something and you have to report back to us and say, well, I did, and I got a new show. I didn't expect it, or something like that. That could be, you know, I would like it if there was something like that you wanted to try to, or, you know, think of one thing to see if you can make it happen by the time we talk. And also your plan. I mean, I think,
A whole other area, like, do you have an area, do you ship very many out? Do you sell many online that you?
I don't do a lot of shipping. I mean, I do some, it's another whole thing, and
Area, because that's what, like, I had said, we want to buy it offline, but it's like, the post office.
oh, well, I
I
mean,
have
that's,
to go package it up. I
you
gotta
have to
fix it.
package them, and I do, I mean, I have a whole framing area, so I mean, that's what I.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of do our own homework. And sort of. Make it
Well, I
easy.
gotta start at the bottom, because I'm not, I'll have to start on Facebook. 'Cause I don't have a
It's your
Facebook.
homework list, just go do a Facebook.
That's my homework, and I'm not even on the internet. Well, I'm on the internet with email and that sort of thing.
Jack got a portrait of you, right?
Pardon?
Jack got a portrait, so you can start with that. Start with some images of paintings.
Next Tuesday, we're having our, having that show in Richmond, if anyone's interested. Next Tuesday, bring 3 pieces of artwork in. I can leave this with you. Has our information. This was just a copy of the book. And if
Yeah, if you wanna do.
if anyone's interested in the PowerPoint, you can send that to you. And you can share. And then, so, you want people to, say this again, so I have it in my brain. You want people to,
Well, we'll try to hammer it.
they're gonna come, they're gonna get on the screen, we're gonna talk. We're gonna have a plan for how they hit this next. And their work and for them.
You've got some-
So, no, not for.
We